Welcome everybody. Welcome in. We are back with the number one mental health podcast on Kick, the Fly High Wi-Fi mental health podcast. Today we have some interesting topics and one that definitely touches dear to a lot of our hearts and the topic of suicide. But we're gonna do it under the suicide rates while intoxicated. We're also gonna talk about generational trauma. So myself, I am Ryan, and we have Mrs. Wi-Fi here. And can you hear me still, or is it cutting out?
No, I can hear you.
Oh,
I
okay.
just didn't know where you were gonna go with that.
Oh, you're yeah. But well, we are glad to have everybody that is here with us, and we are excited to keep these going every other Thursday for now, and hopefully we can stay consistent enough without our work schedules. Because as both of us just started new jobs, we're both busy. So I'm excited to see how many of these we can get done this year.
Yep. Hopefully, yeah, we can keep these going every other Thursday, and if not, do more. Well, we'll see.
Yeah, we will see. But with that said, like I said, one of our topics was suicide rates while intoxicated. Is that where we're
Um,
gonna lead off?
yep, I'm gonna go
Okay.
with that one first. But I did it under the influence of just about anything, and this might go quick unless we have like back and forth conversation because it is
Okay.
straight. I didn't do any type of fluff with this
Straight
because
to
I
the
know
point.
I didn't really know how to add fluff to it.
Yeah.
So, according to the CDC, around 22% of deaths by suicide involve alcohol intoxication with the alcohol content at or above the legal limit.
Okay, what was that percentage again?
22%.
Okay.
At least 29% were found to have alcohol in their system. So they
Okay.
weren't
Above the legal
that,
limit.
yeah. With the alcohol, it's increased significantly in recent years among women.
Among women, okay, with alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, according to the AAC, so American Addiction Centers, 21% involved marijuana, 6% involved cocaine, 30% involve opioids, and then 75% involve more than one substance.
Okay, so one that kind of threw me for a hook there was the 21% for marijuana and only 16 for cocaine.
I think it's because of that 75% involve more than one substance.
Okay.
That's when they start to mix. So it's like a lot of these, because if you add that together, that's pretty close to 100%. But a lot of these are when they start to mix. So that
Okay.
22, 20, all those are kind of probably around that same.
Okay. Yeah, they just I don't see me personally, I don't think I've ever. Oh, I can't say that because I know people that have had negative effects with marijuana, and then I've had people that usually are mellowed out and chill out and hang out. But THC actually is one to add to anxiety. So I can see where some people with anxiety might get amplified with the use of THC. So
Mhm.
I didn't expect it to be that high.
I didn't either. I expected more of the other.
Heart,
I wasn't. I wasn't surprised with the 30% involving like opioids because that included like heroin and stuff like that.
right? Wow.
Um, and then this all played into these percentages include teen addiction and teen suicides as well. So this drops down into the teen.
Okay. So it's all age group, right? Okay.
Mm.
That's good to know.
So they've seen an increase in the last few years in the teens and all these numbers.
Yeah, I know like kids are getting younger and younger to try everything. even
Mm-hmm.
from my age, we didn't have a lot of this stuff. Everybody was just drinking. You know?
Yeah. So I know I went through those pretty quick, but those are the big statistics on
Okay. Um,
it.
so suicide rates while intoxicated on drugs, to me, as you said, like you expected heroin and the opioids to be a little bit higher, which I can see that too. Because maybe the withdrawals, even when they're coming through them, like if they were still in their system and they were withdrawing, that they'll do anything to get their fix too. And if they can't, then I could imagine that that would raise their chances of doing something like suicide.
Yeah. And it doesn't say anything, like when I was looking at this, it doesn't say like if it was somebody who was like relapsing or anything like that, because
Right.
it's just straight up like what they find in like the autopsy. So they don't
Yeah.
know the background. So that's also why these are very straight to the point statistics, because they don't know the story behind the person. They just know what was found in that person's body
Right.
when they did autopsy reports. But that is a interesting thought behind
Yeah.
stage were they in.
Yeah. What stage were they in during the suicide, or I don't know. An addiction, like drug addiction to me goes way back to my childhood because my mother and both my mother and my dad and my uncles, brother, my sister, they were all drug addicts. So seeing them go through their different stages of addiction and the struggles or what they would do to like get their fix was just out of control. So I guess how many of this is like a side note for me. This is where my head goes. Like how many of these weren't classified as suicides because they were classified as overdoses because they don't know the true reasoning behind the death, if they just think it was an overdose or do they think it was,
So
so
it depends on like the classification. So you can do the overdose or you can do like an accidental suicide.
okay.
So um so these were all classified as suicides, whether it be an
Strictly
accidental
suicide.
suicide or whatnot. And then there's like the overdose. So I think it would fall into if this person had like a previous history of maybe suicide attempts.
Yeah,
Um,
or maybe found a letter or note or reasoning
mhm.
behind it maybe.
Yeah, so they would have been classified as suicide for a reason. So then they would have fell in an overdose for another reason.
Right,
So
okay. 'Cause I know, like we all know that 22 suicides a day for veterans is something that I've stood on since I started streaming and raising awareness for that. And I know that they talked about going back and trying to reclassify the alcohol overdoses or alcohol deaths and then the overdoses and try to add those into factor of suicide if they had reason. And if that would only escalate, I believe, the number even more than 22 a day. So,
like an accidental suicide can be somebody who like took what they took and then called for help but still didn't survive. So it was like somebody who tried it but then called for help but still didn't survive. So like that would
okay.
have been like they changed their mind.
Okay.
Sorry, the
Uh,
dogs are
All right. It's all right. No, I
the
just,
dog.
me, this one's like a straight to the point, but leaves so much to the mind, right? Because there's so many different avenues that you could take to ask questions in this area. You're absolutely correct, suspect. He says people don't fathom how bad it is for the vet community. And we, suicides, as crazy as it sounds, is the reason we are sitting here today talking about the things that we are. Um, just been close to both of our hearts and grew up with it twice and then had Tyler. And it's never easy. So the reasoning behind it, you'll never know the answers and you'll never understand. But the best thing we can do is keep pushing and asking questions and raising awareness about it to see if we can help as many people as possible.
It's honestly something that's so common, and the more you talk about it, the more you know, like people that are impacted by it. Like what Ryan was saying, I know, including Tyler, 3 people in my life that are very close to me. And then, like, if you talk to other people, how many people that have been impacted by it? If you sit in a room and ask people that, I'm sure a room of 100 people, at least 75 of them would raise their hand.
Oh, absolutely. And not only that, but you could ask them who has been impacted on it or had the thought themselves, like the ideations of it and thoughts. It's for I would love to say that less people don't have those thoughts, but I can almost promise you more people have them than the people don't. And it's because depression, anxiety, and stuff like that really can control your mind and put you in a negative mind space. So, any given moment, people with depression can just slide off the rails. We learned bipolar just recently. Like people with bipolar, manic one, can slide completely to where he wants to. The guy wanted to jump off a bridge.
Mm-hmm.
Like it just controls you, and you have nothing you can do about it, and that's wild to me. That one, I read into that a little bit. That story blew my mind. Suspects says I've had them too much, man. If y'all want some insight, I can provide. The best thing we can do is encourage people to be stubborn and never give up. And you're 100% suspect. It's easier said than done, though. One of those things that like your demons don't just disappear because you're being stubborn. Being stubborn is what I do best, but it didn't stop my thoughts. The only thing that helps me now is helping other people.
Mm-hmm.
One of the biggest things in being open and talking about it, realizing when I know now, seeing my triggers or my depression coming on to where I can counter it and do those things that I know that's going to keep me away from the depths of depression.
Yeah. And another thing I like to think of is just like just one more smile, just one more, like just one more is
Just
like a
more.
thing that I keep, and you can use that in any situation. Just one more.
You're right. That unfortunately, demons will never leave. You can silence them, but they're never gone. We learned that with addiction, right? That addiction's never gone. It's just how you counter it, how you fight back with it. Oh man, this topic is always tough. So, a good one though, because I know I changed my way of trying to be more positive to people when I see them out in public, even random people. I just say good morning or good afternoon, or open a door for them. Letting people see you see them might change their whole day.
Mm-hmm.
Just a smile or saying hi can literally make somebody feel noticed and wonder why did they notice me or why did he say hi to me, but it changed their whole mindset. And remember, I say this all the time, it's okay to not be okay.
But also remember, you're not alone either.
You aren't alone. We are here, right there on the screen. You can reach out to any of us. If you're not in the Discord, join the Discord. Exclamation point Team Dissy. We have Facebook. We have Twitter. We have pretty much everything. And if you guys like to listen to the podcast outside of the live show, we have it on all major platforms except for Apple. We're still going through the hoops on that one. So, and the suspect said, I found my way. I have fun with them. I learned not to give in, but find fun ways to make fun of them. Comedy, even if it's dark, tends to help me more than folks realize. Dark humor is one of my things. I'll tell you guys that one right now. I probably one of the easiest things that makes me smile.
Dark humor is definitely a, I think, well, one what we all go to. It's the most good.
I always say my theory is if you can't take a joke, F you, but you know, you gotta smile, you gotta have fun. You can't be so uptight that you let something as a joke just offend you that easy where it sends you in a spiral. Suicide, guys, love to say it's not an option. Sometimes it's the worst part of people and it takes over. But if you ever are having thoughts, we are here. Disclaimer: we are not medical professionals, but we are here to listen, support, do whatever we can to be there for you guys. If you are seeking medical attention, please 911 or the suicide hotlines at the top of the screen, 988. Don't be scared to seek out for help. No matter if it's just your local neighbor, your friend, somebody online that you play video games with, anybody. There's people out there. Don't be scared to reach out.
Mm-hmm. And even with that, calling 911, I think the police officer would love to just come sit with you and talk with you for a while versus having to come find that to that wellness call and find you.
Right. Don't want to see that. That one's a quick straight point, guys. Suicidal rates while intoxicated. We had, what was it, 22% to marijuana, or 21% to marijuana. 60%.
22,
Oh, go ahead.
22% to alcohol intoxication above the legal or at the legal limit or above the legal limit. 30% involve opioids, 6% cocaine, and then 75% involve more than one substance.
Okay, so the numbers are there, guys. Intoxication is obviously a big reason in suicide, but it's not the only reason in suicide. Not everybody that does do it is intoxicated. I don't think that's where we're trying to take this. It was just another factor of reasoning, something that happened while they thought to do this. Suspect says suicide is not an option, never is, and for many vets I've met that they've had these thoughts. I used tough love. Sadly, a lot from what I've seen don't respond to kindness as much, but rather treat them like a soldier, make them feel wanted as, oh, the cog in the wheel. Boot camp taught my buddy be a warrior. We took him in lacrosse games and ran it like military games that developed, helping many vets in local VA. Gave competition and a reason to be here again. So competition, a lot of people strive in competition, so that is a good point. Find something that fuels them. Find something that gives them that enjoyment again. I know softball was huge for me. When I lost the ability to play softball due to my feet, in basketball, I lost a lot in me because I then fell into depression because I couldn't do the things that I loved. I sold my motorcycle, all these things, but I found the strength in my family and through the community that we have here, and it kept me going. For that, I thank you guys, all of you. Tough love, competition, and also family. Host fellow fighters make this 1000% easier. But I'm ready to move on from that one.
All right. Yeah, definitely a quick one, but a very important one. But moving on to generational trauma.
Generational trauma.
Mm-hmm. Sure, a lot of people have heard about generational trauma. Generational trauma refers to like a traumatic event that impacts generations that follow it. And this can be an impact of a traumatic event that isn't limited to just one person directly. It can influence children, grandchildren, or even the community. So it goes into family members or a bonded community.
Oh, even bonded community, okay.
Mm-hmm. That experience traumatic events or behaviors. So, the emotional effects of traumatic events can be passed down over time. These effects can often cause intense challenges for future generations. So, the most common generational trauma that you'll hear about is actually transgenerational trauma, and that's what's passed down through your family.
Okay.
The other generational trauma would be what's passed down through like the groups of people. So generational trauma may be seen families with trauma survivors who have experienced oppression, racism, discrimination, or violence. So that's where you're going to see it in more of the groups, but then you also have your family members. So the more focus on your family is the transgenerational.
Okay, that makes sense.
Um, so there's a big study going on whether it's a real thing or not. It is like a real thing, and actually, generational trauma, even though it's not found in your genes, it is like seen to be passed down as effectively as, or as commonly as something that can be passed down through your genes. It's not found in your genes, but like the trauma your parents or grandparents have felt or that group has felt passes down as easily as something that can be passed down through your genes.
Wow, it's a gene, but it's not a gene.
Yeah, so they can't like find it in you, but
Right.
there's people who are like so traumatized from an event that they've never experienced.
Wild. Was that through like psychological, right? Psychological?
Um,
Because it's not really physical because they never seen it or experienced it, so it'd be more psychological,
it's something that's like it can be taught to them, or it can be developed through like anxiety and stuff through their parents or their grandparents. And again, this could be something like their great grandparents experienced. They've never even met their great grandparents, but it's been passed on so strongly that it just keeps traveling.
right? Okay. Interesting.
Um, so, generational trauma can be seen in individuals through various symptoms such as anxiety, depression, low self esteem, or self destructive behaviors.
Okay.
How to uncover generational trauma, you can like identify the root cause of your or your community's traumatic responses. So you have to figure out what's causing like the overall, where did it start.
So the kind of a trigger or a root and the
It,
trigger, I guess.
yeah. Acknowledge your behavior, the impacts it has on your behavior, and that it isn't your fault. And then address your trauma by seeking support from help from professionals and loved ones. So it's how you have to go all the way back to see where it starts, because if you don't really understand where it's coming from, it's not something that you can really diagnose. They don't really know where it, like, they can't pinpoint or diagnose you. You have to just see like where it's coming from.
Okay. I didn't know really what generational trauma was, and then like I spoke to you, like the wife had brought up like how her and her sister discuss certain things all the time of how they don't want to experience the same things they did as a kid with our kids. So they try to change the pattern or change the way where the kids are raised, or their life sets for the jobs, homestead, as much as going down to clothing, everything, so that they can break the cycle that they feel is becoming generational.
Yep.
I had no clue about it till she said something.
Mm-hmm. And it can be something just like that. Some people have like generational trauma because it's been passed down. Like their family has struggled with money. They've struggled in some way or rather, and like somebody just like now they're like they have money saved up in the bank, but they won't spend a single penny of it because they have that generational trauma of like
Always
they grew
being
up.
broke.
Yep.
I could feel that because I watched a lot of my friends try to be something crazy big, but they're so frugal that they're still driving around in a hoopty because they just want to see the money in the bank. And I don't blame them. As long as the car runs, good for you. But
Yeah.
also only get one life.
So, it also says generational trauma can feel different for each individual. So we've talked about this. Everybody's journey is a little different, and that's what makes the mental health journey difficult for anybody trying to get the help that they need. However, it can make a person have hard times trusting others, feel very helpless about the future, or cause them to experience feelings of anxiety and depression. So it goes back to all those things that are tying together. So,
And again, they all start to tie in somewhere. Why it's so serious to get into these details on a lot of these things because, like you said, depression, anxiety are all things that are brought into play here. I'm gonna read.
um, so it was saying research shows that DNA can remember traumatic experiences, and that's how it gets passed down. So,
DNA can.
yeah. So it's not really a gene, but it's DNA. And I guess if you go, so this is well above my knowledge set. So genes and DNA, they're different but similar. But your DNA can remember traumatic events, and that's how it gets passed down.
That's something I would have never thought of. So here's something that I can relate to on generational trauma, right? We talked about like my mom and my dad were all drug addicts and both took their own lives, one overdosed, one suicide. So to me now I want to break the cycle and I stayed away from drugs as much as possible. And now I promote not do that with my kids or allow them to do that. So my grandma was a drug user. So my mom got it from my grandma. And then my uncle was a drug user also. So my mom's brother, they all grew up in the same thing. And I stayed so far away from that I won't even take aspirin unless I'm dire need. So it took a lot for me to get on the medication that I'm on now for my feet, my neuropathy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I said it took a lot for me to just get on that medication for my neuropathy. I didn't want to take anything.
Yeah, that is like a good example of how you were trying to break that cycle because you were so afraid that you'd fall into it.
And I have a so it's passed through. Well, we haven't really got into the addiction and the recessive gene with addiction, right? So I believe I want to say that addiction is hereditary because I've watched. I don't know that for sure. I would love to dig into that to find out if it's something that could be found out as hereditary. That's
Yeah,
something we can look into.
yeah, we could look into it, but I feel like I agree on that too because they say alcoholism can be passed down through, so
Right.
I couldn't.
And that's an addiction also, right? So
Yeah, so, but yeah, we could dig into that because I don't want to speak on not
yeah, I don't
doing.
without the research, right? But yeah, so that's something that I feel it would be inside of me. But I also can say that I'm addicted to video games. So I do
Yeah,
have an addiction. I
yeah, as I
feel it in
say,
a different way. So, but again, then also video games has always been my crutch, the place I run to when I need to escape what's going on outside of the game. Still an addiction. I put too much time in.
yeah, so say that's sometimes how addictions start, though they want to
Right.
find that. You look like you're reading.
Oh, I was typing to chat.
Oh,
He said good. I asked how one of the cod whiskey was doing. He said good, first time catching your podcast. And I just told him glad to have you here.
um. So then, what is some evidence of generational trauma? It can be presented in codependency, unhealthy attachment styles. This is where I said we could lead into doing some studies on attachment styles.
Okay.
Hypervigilance, difficulty trusting others, other health conditions. So this would tie into like anxiety disorders and depression and substance abuse.
Okay. Your thumbs up.
Huh?
Whatever just popped up. Thumbs up popped up.
Oh.
That was funny because it was like right above your head, like a thumbs up bubble.
Must have seen me thinking.
Yeah. Funny.
Um, so we mentioned a few of these earlier. Some symptoms of generational trauma would be the hypervigilance, difficulty trusting others, low self-esteem, fear of death, helplessness, substance abuse problems. And that's not limited to that because again, everybody's different, and then it also depends on what the generational or transgenerational trauma is.
Okay.
So depending on what that trauma is being passed down, your symptoms may be different.
Okay. Yeah, not everybody's the same. That's why we've talked about it in the past with other like diagnoses that are misdiagnosed because a lot of the categories are the same, but not all people are. So
Um, the last thing I have is an underlying issue that can be passed down with this is diabetes. I'm not sure how they're tied.
that's something we definitely need to figure out or try to see if we can
Mm-hmm.
get some information. I I know
That's the only biology thing that's been tied to it is like it can be passed down with diabetes.
one's a physical thing, one's a mental thing. Crazy.
That's all I have on the
Generational trauma.
yeah.
Okay. Chat. Does anybody in chat have anything to go with for either of the subjects that we topics, I should say, topics that we discussed today? We just went over generational trauma. Beginning of the show, we went over suicidal rates while intoxicated. I just the diabetes thing kind of threw me for a little bit of a hook. That's the only thing that they say. I don't even know how that would. That's where I'm definitely gonna look into that because I don't know how it even ties in. Because you say it's not even technically passed through genes; it's through
DNA, but
DNA. So definitely look into that one. Then we'll have to find some of
I have
them.
to leave you with a little question mark at the end so you can go do your own little research, Ryan.
Yeah, right. Chad, if we got nothing else, guys, Alyssa, you have anything?
No, I know this one was a shorter one just because the first one was real short, but
Right. Cod Whiskey said when I was in college, I took counseling and also got my certificate in drug abuse counseling. Awesome, Whiskey. Glad to hear that. Keep doing it. Keep helping out. All this stuff isn't talked about enough, and the more people that we have putting out the awareness and the help, it gives people more
great.
places to go. Remember, guys, you are not alone. We are here. All right. Nothing from you, you said? All right, guys. On behalf of Fly High Wi-Fi, myself, Mrs. Wi-Fi, just want to say thank you for being here. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. We will be back in 2 weeks, hopefully, asterisk, depending schedules. But we will keep you guys updated. The time, the flyer, and everything will be posted on Twitter, Facebook, everywhere you guys can find us. If you guys don't follow us, please do us a favor and do so we can reach out to more people and keep growing and trying to do everything that we can. Saint said, "Don't end yet." Okay, Saint. I won't end the stream, but I'm going to end the recording. But again, thank you guys, and we will see you guys in a couple weeks. Bye.
Yeah.